I want you to imagine yourself in a box. Let's say you're 6 foot. So the box is going to be about 5.5 feet to maybe 5 foot. You're 150, 200 pounds. So the box is going to be barely wide enough for you to be able to bend your knees in. It's a box that's too short for you to stand tall in, but too thin for you to be able to bend your knees in, sit in, lay in, or anything of that nature. And for the next 72 hours, you are locked in this box, surrounded by the harrowing noise of screaming babies and their death rattle, played through a speaker so loud that you can't hear yourself think. And at the end of the 72 hours, you expect to be pulled out of a box that you were just stuck in, that square of horror, and recall things accurately, like your leader's name. And if you are not able to recall your leader's name correctly, they're going to get the rest of your pals, associates, friends, co-workers, whatever you want to call them, brothers in arms, beat your ass, and then throw you back in said box to do it all over again. And when you come out after 72 hours, you better know that man's name. Now, see, that's the cliff notes on a story I was told by a police officer I was doing an interview with recently in my life for a job at my local county jail. And we were discussing the traumatic events that had happened to us in our lives, because a part of the job interview process was to dig deep into your past. And I have no fears of my past, so I am open and willing to share. I'm guessing that because I was open and willing to share mine, he felt the need to share his, and it was a wonderful exchange of conversations. But it made me ask a question. For this individual who did this interview with me, for him, if this is what you're experiencing, how are you in control of a firearm if you haven't dealt with it? And this is just from my personal opinion. The second story he proceeded to follow up with, discussing how he would handle his daughter's boyfriend if they even so much as coughed or sneezed in the wrong way, told me that I should be afraid for my life if I was dealing with this police officer in the street. A particular story he gave me was that his daughter's boyfriend merely disrespected her by calling her out of her name. He proceeded to go over to the house that her boyfriend was in, break through the front door, brandish his firearm, point it in his face, tell him the usual adage lines of what you best not do to my family, and then slam his firearm on the table and give him a long lecture as to where he went wrong and how he messed up. And for some of you out there, you're proud of this dad. And for those out there who are proud of this dad, you need help. That's not how we handle things as grown adults. We don't threaten teenagers with firearms, especially if we work for law enforcement. But anybody who's been paying attention to law enforcement lately knows that it's the exact opposite. And the reason why I speculate that it's the exact opposite is because of a little concept I want to get into in this video. The concept is the exact reason why I'm making this video, because I see it not just in policing and in the military and other combative areas of industry, but I see it even in the softer ones, the mental ones, the ones that don't require exposure to violence or extreme trauma on a daily basis in order to do your job. This concept I've coined as trauma trials. See, there's a little unique thing about trauma. Trauma changes a person. It does. That's what makes it different from just being in a crappy situation. Trauma has the ability to not only stay with you, but to morph you into something different. And for those who know how to use trauma as a tool, they know how to control that metamorphosis. You can find this type of thinking in the corporate landscape, in the military industrial complex, in the policing landscape, in the medical industry, in almost every aspect of life. When you reach a certain upper echelon of person, you can see these tests starting to be applied. I'm going to touch on 3 industries that I know personally have this trialing system that really ends up destroying a lot of people and really needs to be dealt with. And I'm talking about this so that those in the middle of these systems can see them for what they are, recognize as to whether they really want to be a part of them, and for those who don't and see these systems and these trials as a badge of honor, so maybe they could rethink that. Because I'm here to tell you, there's nothing badge of honor about having your teeth kicked out your mouth when you're 7 years old. There's nothing badge of honor about being beaten on by your commanding officers and your fellow platoon members after they threw you into a box for 72 hours with screaming baby noises. I'm here to tell you something that no one's going to want to hear, and I'm probably going to get a significant amount of backlash for saying, but you're a victim, and someone victimized you, and you survived it. The badge of honor comes from the survival, but more importantly, the ability to recognize the abuse you were put through, to identify it as such, and make the necessary steps it takes in order to change what that abuse, what that trauma did to you. And no, it doesn't take extreme situations like being thrown in a box with screaming baby noises. It could be just something as simple as growing up in an industry of sports, entertainment, or wrestling that encourages you to ignore your hurt body because the show must go on. I'm talking to you, CM Punk. I'm talking to you, Cody Rhodes. No, your blackened and blued pectoral muscles in the middle of a Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins was not something that my child needed to grow up idolizing. You needed to step out of the ring and go get the proper help that you needed. And this is coming from a martial artist who's been doing that since he was 5 years old and consistently keeping up with it till today. I've been knocked out. I've had arms broken. I've had Achilles tendons torn and stretched in all types of ways. I've been where you've been. But the difference is in my world, we don't ask for you to start beating people over the head with dislocated elbows and shoulders. And if we do, and you're being asked that, you're not in a good situation. The person asking you that is not doing you any favors. Please leave before you irrevocably damage yourself beyond all recognition and end up being the very monster that created you. You might be asking, what kicked off me wanting to do this video? Hell, what kicked off me wanting to come back? Because it's been so long since I've uploaded beforehand. And it was something simple. I was watching a video with some soldiers who were speaking on fake boot camps. Now, if there's one thing you're going to learn about soldiers, is that they like to wear their trauma trials as badges of honors. And they definitely don't want anyone else copying their trauma trials or copying their badges of honor. Because, to be honest, more likely, the trauma that they go through is the only thing that can give them comfort at night that what they went through was worth it. And there's a whole myriad of things to talk about, and there's a lot of soldiers who are going to be very unhappy with what I'm saying in this video and talk to me about how this is just the soft generations doing soft things. No, I just want you to have your sound mind and not be like that police officer I was hearing from earlier who thinks it's okay to stick a gun in a child's mouth because they said something sideways. I just want you to be able to see people as humans rather than targets. And if that makes me a terrible person, then I am sorry to interrupt your day. Please continue on as you continue allowing the trauma to eviscerate who you were and every bit of kindness in you. Trauma trials aren't cool. They're not badges of honor. They're not something you should wear as though they have given you greatness. It's fine to try to take what you've been through and make it positive and use it as momentum forward. But to say and to go so far as to say other people are lesser than you because they haven't had to, or that person is not willing to go to the lengths of you because they haven't been in that situation, to start making trauma a requirement in order to succeed, that's where I have to say something, and that's when someone needs to say something to you. And that is what is going on with these trauma trials now. They're being baked into systems of progression. People are using them as achievement awards. And they're not realizing just how much damage it's havocing to those around them. I don't say this because I dislike you. I say this because I grew up idolizing people like you, training and hanging with people like you. I grew up with the mindset of individuals like you. I'm not a shonen protagonist. Anime is an exaggerated form of life. Art form. And it needs to be remembered as such. Another group of people who find trauma trials attractive are individuals who watch this stuff, who play video games. Same thing. Push yourself until your mind breaks. Break past your limits. There's nothing wrong with wanting to overcome your limits and make a different version of yourself. But if you have to harm yourself irrevocably, and I don't mean feel some pain, have some sweats, change some minds. No, that's normal. I mean damage some stuff. If that is what you think it takes to succeed, then congratulations on your success. But I really, really worry for your future. Because at the end of the day, the trinkets, the toys, the accolades, the memories, the hoorahs, the gamer sessions, the wrestling matches, the jamming sessions, anything you could come up with in your mind, the high sales you made, the changes in people's psychological outlook in life that you helped create, all those things won't mean a damn if we have to fix another person who did all of that, sacrificed themselves for others. And I get it. There are people who truly believe that self-sacrifice is needed. It's funny how we can say that in one instance out of our mouth when we talk about the soldiers who go overseas and die in war, but then we historically lambast Japan for having the same mindset and just following it through. For the Middle East having players out there of the same mindset and just following it through. It's called doublespeak, guys. It's either all wrong or it's all okay. And for me, and the damage that I've witnessed, in my personal opinion, and that's all it is, it ain't worth it. Don't trauma trial yourself. Don't let someone trauma trial you. Know your limits and respect them, and safely overcome them with rigorous practice, humble love to yourself, eating well, sleeping well, and knowing yourself, and not letting anyone tell you what you are. Because maybe you are the guy to sit up under a log, being waterlogged with 12 other individuals in the middle of the night in the dead cold. Maybe you are that dude. But I have a strong feeling that that dude's not okay. Because that's not what we need to do to ourselves to succeed in life as human beings. And for those who are at the top echelon, we're going to say, I did this to win. What did your victory bring you? Truly. Feel free to answer in the comments section below. Thank you.